All right, it is Saturday, November 16th, and Bitcoin is hovering still over 90K. I think it's around 90,500, something like that. I want to make another update because I think everything that's happening right now translates to an underpriced Bitcoin. Even given the recent run-up, it just seems like everything going on with institutional demand, MicroStrategy, ETFs, governments, even retail to an extent, all these things combined will just create a synergy I think people are not ready for. There are people in, different camps. There are the bears, those who think that Bitcoin's not going to, really amount to anything, increase in price materially. Not something they think is going to happen. I think everyone is extremely under allocated to Bitcoin if they are allocated at all. And I think it is your chance to substantially change your life and your situation. Right now, the cards seem pretty stacked against, younger people who don't have assets are really struggling to afford things like real estate as utility. We're not even talking about investment, just to, raise a family, even kids, even raising a family itself. These things are becoming out of reach. I have a pretty decent job and it's tough. It's still really tough to be able to, afford the things that I would like and save for the future, save for retirement, kids, house, you name it, things like that. And right now we have an opportunity that I think everyone's just sleeping on. I keep saying it. I'm going to keep pounding the table about this. The people with money are coming for Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been, legitimized, you could say, by the likes of BlackRock, Fidelity. Even we have our upcoming president, Donald Trump, speaking kindly about Bitcoin, a potential reserve. I think states are also exploring, Pennsylvania, for example, exploring the possibility of a strategic reserve by state. And I just think people hear these things and they don't quite fully grasp the extent of what could possibly happen. We live in a world where one Bitcoin's $90,000, and in the United States, the, median salary, I would say, is probably $50-something thousand. Not long ago, Bitcoin was $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, and the amount of work people needed to, put in to generate the money to put in to get one Bitcoin has, it used to be a lot less. You used to be able to buy a Bitcoin once upon a time for, nothing, pennies, dollars, $10, $100, 1,000, 10. We're knocking on 100,000. And how much Bitcoin are you going to get before you're not going to be able to get enough? These players, BlackRock owning over, 400,000 Bitcoin for their clients. You have people like Michael Saylor with around 280,000. They're going to continue buying El Salvador. We have the president talking about it. I mean, I just don't really know. Does God himself have to come down out of the clouds and tell you, hey, buy Bitcoin? Because apart from that, to me, everything else has happened. Everything else has had to happen for this to be, the lowest risk Bitcoin has ever been, and potentially the greatest investment given all this approval and acceptance that we have. And a lot of people just think it's a joke. A lot of people think that Bitcoin's not going to, amount to anything, that all these institutions and countries, and they're just buying it for no reason. Listen, even if, the United States does, in fact, start buying Bitcoin, even if they don't buy as much as they say, they may, but even if they start acquiring Bitcoin, other countries are going to have to follow suit. whether they like it or not, just to remain competitive, because Bitcoin is the first thing with a finite supply. For a fact, we know exactly how much there is. And we know that, if the United States buys all of the Bitcoin, no one else is going to have any. Ever. I mean, used to have 50 Bitcoin produced every 10 minutes, down to 25, 12 and a half, 6.25 now, down to 3.125 every 10 minutes. Guys, there's going to be a point where, just fractions and fractions are going to be coming out. And, all these computers with all this computing power are going to be, mining and competing for just rewards that could seem like dust now, but really just the name of the game is patience. You get what you can. As a fixed amount, you grab what you can and you tuck it away, you hide it, you save it, you don't touch it, you can look at it, just don't I think after a cycle or two, people really start to get the hang of it. I started buying Bitcoin at 30, 40K, then 50, then 60K, 65, and then felt like a genius, but then Bitcoin crashed to $15,000. That hurt. Seeing my portfolio just completely destroyed was awful, and I was scared. Now at this point, seeing it come back higher than ever, buying it around 15, of course, not, enough, but definitely still participating at that range. I don't know who's selling their Bitcoin to somebody else for $15,000, but thank you. And, Bitcoin could go back down to 15,000 tomorrow. And honestly, I wouldn't care. I'd be happy. I'd buy more. I'd get, if it came back to this price, what return is that? Like a 6x? You kidding me? A 700% return is that? Or sorry, 600% return. 500% return. Yeah. There's going to be a point where, Bitcoin could be traded at $200,000 and nobody is going to really be able to afford a Bitcoin, right? I mean, of course, there are people who are going to be able to afford it at that price. I'm talking about a whole Bitcoin. You can, of course, buy any amount, and you don't need 200 grand if Bitcoin hits that price to participate. But when Bitcoin was $15,000, you could have bought, a 0.01, 1% of a Bitcoin for $150. 150. You could have bought 10% of a Bitcoin for $1,500. $1,500. Right now, instead of $150 for 1% of a Bitcoin, it is $900. So, buying now, I'm still buying now. I'm just going to keep buying no matter what the price is because I don't care. Well, at 15,000, you were really putting in money at that range. You're sitting real pretty right now. And in the future, people will look at our opportunity to buy Bitcoin at $90,000 and just think we're stupid, frankly, for not buying it. Bitcoin can hit 500,000, $1 million. You're talking about 10 grand for 1% of one. Is that right? Yep. 10% of a Bitcoin, 100 grand. People are going to be fighting over fragments of Bitcoin, and you have the opportunity now. The whole world is shifting quickly. The fiat system is falling apart. It may not completely dissolve, but people are losing faith. The U.S. government is $36 trillion in debt, and these numbers are just asinine. Anyone who can do math and looks at the interest payment on the debt and sees all this money the U.S. is promising to pay people that it cannot possibly pay back, you should take an insurance policy against that. You should not put all your eggs in that house of cards basket. There's a basket up here on a house of cards, and it's just going to crumble. And people think this can't happen, but it happens all the time. And, not everyone is going to be on the wrong side of that. you know, you have the chance now to acquire Bitcoin at what I still believe is a bargain price. And people just, you know, I don't understand. There's so much happening right now in the space. The news is all, if you told me this in 2020, I mean, I wouldn't believe it. This sounds like something that would happen in 2035 at the absolute earliest. We're so spoiled. I think we're so used to all this good news, and we're spoiled. Donald Trump's talking about buying Bitcoin, buying 1 million Bitcoin for the United States. El Salvador has legal tender. They're buying Bitcoin every single day. MicroStrategy is buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin. They want to buy $40 billion of Bitcoin over the next 3 years. The U.S. government wants to spend like $90 billion to buy 1 million Bitcoin at today's prices. Like, what are we talking about? BlackRock has 400,000 Bitcoin as the best performing ETF with $40 billion under management in less than a year. Guys, everyone with money or power is chasing Bitcoin. And not only that, they're going in. They're not just dipping their toes. They are cannonballing in, and they're absorbing up, vacuuming up, sucking up all of the Bitcoin. And everyone else is just going to be fighting over scraps. You know, there's going to be no Bitcoin left for you. Bitcoin goes to $1 million because the whole world realizes that this makes sense. And by the time it's, $1 million, everyone will realize it's a good idea, but it'll be, not too late to Bitcoin, but it'll just be the fact that you wouldn't have benefited, nearly as much. Think about someone buys Bitcoin at $15,000. Bitcoin goes to $1 million. Their life is just going to be different. It's going to be better. It's going to be a lot better. And these people buying Bitcoin know that. They're buying it. They're not touching it. They're not selling it. And they're just going to buy more. I mean, I'm making this video because I need to talk to somebody about this. And I feel like this is just so, it just seems so obvious. And it's also overlooked by everybody. And I just need to get this message out. Yeah, so that's it, guys. If you like, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel for new Bitcoin updates, and yeah, catch you guys later. Thanks.